Veronica, what was it in you that you became such an amazing writer? Because for a lot of kids, they see writing as a chore, something that you have to hand in for a grade. But for you, you can tell that you really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think because I was encouraged to read for fun when I was a kid, so it wasn't like a project, it was whatever you wanted to read. And if that's the way that you feel about reading, then it's often the way that you can feel about writing when you get it, in your head to write fiction. So it's just like
We,
an adventure.
yeah, right? We get a lot of questions from people saying, how do I start? And it always starts with an idea. For your first book, what was the idea? How was that sparked?
Well, I was taking a psychology class in college, and I was learning about exposure therapy, which is when they treat anxiety or a phobia by exposing a person in a safe environment to whatever it is that they're afraid of or that provokes their anxiety. And I thought it would be interesting if there was like a science fiction way to have exposure therapy and to take it to an extreme. And that's kind of where the little grain of Divergent came from.
And that's how it happens for everyone. You take a psychology class, you become a New York Times bestseller, and then all of a sudden it becomes a movie, right? it's
No
one thing
sweat.
to, it's one thing to write the book and have that type of success, but as an author, to see it become the movie series, what's that like? Because obviously it can take us a few weeks to read a book, but in a movie you can't put all of that in there.
Yeah, there's some adjustments that have to be made just because a book is a lot longer than a movie. And then there's also, it's a different medium. So, but the process was pretty amazing. I mean, I'd never been anywhere close to anything Hollywood related before, so I just had to try not to lose my mind on the regular.
How did you come about with Chosen Ones?
Well, Chosen Ones was a little bit of a kind of like idea sequel to Divergent. So Divergent is a kind of a Chosen One story. There's a girl, she's set apart, she saves the world. And then my question with Chosen Ones is what happens to heroes who save the world in the years after? How do you adjust to regular life again, just practically and also psychologically after you've been through what amounts to a kind of a trauma?
Yeah.
So Chosen Ones is about that after, that what next story.
And we see that a lot because we have a tendency sometimes to put people on a pedestal just so we can knock them off.
Yeah.
Or there are times when they become, all of a sudden this person the world knows and then the person the world forgets. What was the storyline, or what was it that you saw that gave you the idea for this?
Well, I think it was mostly just a question I had about a lot of stories that I read growing up. Like, I mean, even Harry Potter, I was like exactly the right age for that series when it came out. But there's also, Lord of the Rings and Dune and all these books have to do with a chosen one figure. But they don't, because of what they are about, they don't ask you or they don't show you what happens psychologically or emotionally to those characters because that's just not what they're about. But I was curious about it. So I think whenever I'm curious about something, I end up writing about it. And that's kind of what Chosen Ones was.
Yeah. We get out of a book what we also in part bring to a book. But overall, what kinds of lessons are you hoping that Chosen Ones can teach us? What questions do you want us to ask ourselves and talk about after we turn the last page?
Well, I think it mostly what I hope for right now is that it can be a nice escape for people in a really hard time, because I think that's important. I'm gravitating toward fantasy right now because it's another world and it's an adventure, and I get to turn my brain off a little in a nice way. But I also think Chosen Ones is about the burdens that we put on individuals to solve our problems when really it would be better for all of us if it was more collective. So I think that is one of the kind of questions that the book is concerned with.
Yeah, and I think we're really seeing right now that collective effort for people to get through this whole COVID-19 thing. All right, the best advice you have for people who, as we say, always, everyone has a book in them, the best advice for people who say, how do I get started? And whether they ever become a New York Times bestseller or produce a movie out of it, the key part is just right.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the biggest obstacle for people is just sitting down and getting going and also learning to enjoy the day-to-day process of it. Because if you love the result, it's going to be hard for you to put in the work because a book is that's like you got to dig in your heels for a long time to write a book.
Yeah. You are the unicorn. You've accomplished all that by the age of like 10. But anyway, 31. That's pretty cool. Is there something that you want to do that you haven't gotten around to yet?
I think there's other kinds of writing that I'm curious about, and like nonfiction essay form, or maybe screenwriting someday. But mostly writing is what I love, and so I don't know. I feel lucky that I get to do it for work.
Thank you very much. We feel lucky that you got to join us. Thank you very much,
Thanks
and
for
best of
having me.
luck on your new book.
Thanks.